Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species, a very special segment because this is really a panel discussion as part of the group that was formed on this channel called Climate Optimists. And I want to just take a couple of moments to introduce. Why don't you, you know what, Gino, why don't you, I think, why don't you do a quick intro of yourself? This is the title of this. There's so much for me to unpack up here because I'm kind of exuberant about this and doing this. And this is the living, breathing Mother Earth. And,
Yes.
and the purpose of this climate optimist group is to educate, and in part to teach the children, young people and old people, about climate change. And each time we do a panel, there'll be a different perspective. It's all the same endpoint, to educate and teach about climate change. And this is such an interesting perspective. And I just think it's best if we introduce the panelists. And if you actually do a little bit of your own bio better than my doing it. And in in the midst of a major climate change and uncertainty about the future, and Wajid Hassan has put together this panel. This is his doing, and he chose a bunch of experts from his Yogi Masters organization, the Aetherius Society, to explain about Mother Earth and stuff that's going on and what can be done to help. I mean, really such a fascinating, interesting perspective, and how important this is, because we see climate change in its biblical senses with floods and fires and droughts and pandemics. So, Gino, just a quick intro and a little bio piece.
So hello, everyone. My name is Gino Chaldoni, and I'm a member of the Aetherius Society here in Toronto, Canada. And I've been involved with the society since, I'd say, the mid-'80s, and quite active up here, helping where I can. And definitely I pale in comparison to my colleagues who I've actually never met in person, but actually I think I've met Wajid years ago when I was in LA. But I have an athletic background with martial arts, with triathlon, and it was actually my martial arts teacher that put me onto this path of spirituality, really, and the awareness that comes with it. But today I've got a practice in financial planning, for what that's worth. Just thought I'd throw that in there. It's not, sort of, a lot of people are working in the world just to, make ends meet and doing things while we're doing our spiritual work. So hello, everyone.
Thank you, Gino. Frank.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Frank McManus. I'm coming to you from Auckland, New Zealand. I've been involved in the Aetherius Society for 41 years, so a lot of my life. I came across it at an early age. I was searching, like a lot of young people are, searching for a purpose of life. And I wanted to find a connection between the cosmos and spirituality. I just had this feeling that there was a connection, and I found it. And I got boots in straight away and became very involved, had a great fortune of meeting the founder, a true spiritual ecologist, Dr. George King, Western Master of Yoga, and helped in many ways to pioneer the Aetherius Society in New Zealand. And we did some amazing things for the earth in many different ways we'll talk about today. But I became a bishop in the Aetherius churches, and very involved in the running and structuring of the society. I've also been involved in martial arts as well. So, and that had a profound effect upon me. And also in environmental organizations, Sea Shepherd being one of them, and very much involved in the health of the oceans as well, because I feel that has a tremendous effect upon the planet. The oceans are like the psychic aspect of the earth. And so how we treat the oceans has a very big bearing, but more importantly, how we treat the planet spiritually. And that's what drew me to the Aetherius Society, how we interrelate with the planet as an entity. So that's a little bit of my history.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Alison.
Hello, or greetings from London. Well, I've been involved in the Aetherius Society for, well, I'd better not say how many decades, but I met Dr. King in London when I was very young, and I've been a close follower of his pretty much throughout his mission on Earth here. And I studied the teachings, and I just knew within me that they were true. There's a profundity in the philosophy that can't be equaled. You know, I studied philosophy at school, but that was nothing compared to this. If you're going to find the truth about life, you have to study metaphysics, because that really is the science behind religion. And it's through the study of the yogas and spiritual truths that you'll find the path to enlightenment. And for me, the Aetherius Society was my chosen path, and I haven't deviated from that, not one day, in over 45 years.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Alison. And finally, Wajid.
Hi guys, Wajid Hassan. I've been specially trained to run away from people who've been trained in martial arts. But I too have been involved with the Aetherius Society for a number of years, and I'm just over the moon that I have three experts from the Aetherius Society who are going to come in today and talk about the living, breathing Mother Earth. I think it's something that the younger generation have not really been educated about, primarily because the mainstream media doesn't talk too much about it. And so it's great to be here. My background again has been in metaphysics, yoga, spiritual healing, and like my colleagues, you know, I have a deep interest and love for the Mother Earth, and all live streams upon her back. And these are very, very significant times now to have this panel here and to bring out truths which have never really been revealed before. So thank you.
This is wonderful. And when we're done with this panel, we have some members of the Climate Optimist group, this initial group, Kevin Albin, Carla Davis-Smith, Gaetano Ardieri, and Alan Hess, and we'll have a bit of an open discussion when we're done. So I'm going to start asking some actually really fascinating questions, which people may have never even heard before. And that's the beauty of this, the diversity of thought and the end motive of climate change. So Wajid, can you tell us what is the struggle for world sanity? And I'm going to hold up this book that I read twice. I never read books twice, but I read it twice because it was relevant and fascinating, and it's your book. So what is the struggle for world sanity?
As you know, I wrote the book last year, and it did very well, primarily on a couple of subjects, mysticism and spirituality and UFOs. So to me, it shows there's a tremendous interest occurring around the world. People are looking for answers, and there's an awakening. And of course, I'll let my experts discuss what this awakening is about. But one aspect of the awakening is, of course, the Aquarian age, where astrologically there is a mind shift, a global mind shift that's occurring right now. People call it the Great Awakening, and it was important for me to write the book, not only talk about some of my personal experiences, but experiences with my yogi master, Dr. George King, but also to let people know, our past, present, and future, and and the significance of what's happening right now that is going to affect our future. And again, my panel of experts will open up aspects of truth which will give the younger generation a message of hope, of inspiration, and to know that they're not being left alone, that there are forces that are helping and guiding and have always been helped and guiding, and then also give a greater perspective of what Mother Earth really is, and the fact that we've been inhabiting her body now for the last 18 million years. And so there is a struggle for world sanity. There is a change. People are opening their minds. People's intuitions are being inspired by forces from outside. And I think it's a great change. There's going to be a tremendous amount of turmoil, a tremendous amount of upheaval, but in the end, it's all going to fare well. So without further ado, Calvin, I will let you open it up to our panel of experts. Thank you.
Okay, Frank, can you please tell us who is Dr. George King and what really is the Aetherius Society?
Well, that's a vast subject.
I figured.
In the East, there is a name they call great masters. They call them avatars. Now, avatar really means a descent of divinity, or a divine being who's come amongst mankind, who's not part of mankind, but has been born onto the earth as a man or woman. Some have been women, to bring great truth. Now, Dr. King, we believe, was one of these intelligences. He was born in Shropshire in England in 1919, but he was born into a normal family, although albeit his family members were very psychic, his mother and grandmother. And he practiced yoga at an early age. He had amazing abilities, which are unusual. So he appeared, and his grandmother said at the time, she said, "My God, Mary, his mother, this child is not of this earth," she said. So she saw it straight away. And so he practiced yoga. The reason he practiced yoga for 10 years was to overcome the terrestrial aspect of his being, the body and everything that goes with the body, to realize who he really was. And he realized who he was, that he was not of this earth, and he had a specific mission. And this started a great process in his life. And he then became, some people say activate, he became awake to his real mission in this life. And that mission was to introduce a cosmic concept of religion, to bring about amazing lines of contact with cosmic beings who have been watching this earth for thousands, if not millions of years, and had a great plan for the earth. And he was a pivotal key in these days to bring about the awakening of this plan. So he devised certain missions in cooperation with cosmic intelligences. He brought down a cosmic concept of religion, which was absolutely necessary in these days. Religion had become so confusing. And in the Aetherius Society, well, it was brought around in groups of people to help him in this task. One of the things was to spread the great teachings, which were pioneering, they still are, pioneering teachings. This cosmic concept of spirituality. Not only that, but also more importantly, to help him to carry on the great cosmic missions. And there are many of them, and which were absolutely vital to address a great crisis on the earth, a spiritual energy crisis, which he maintained was the main crisis on earth today, a spiritual energy crisis. All the others were just side effects from this. And one of the big things he said that we should do, and was to address how we treat the earth as a living being, as a great cosmic intelligence. And he, of all the teachers, saw this more than any others, and he went further than that, and we can go into that later. But so the Aetherius Society was founded around him to help in this great concept. and it's going on today. And we hope that the Aetherius Society will carry on greatly into the future and will help to educate the whole of mankind into this cosmic concept and give mankind opportunities which are totally unique today to help in spiritual ecology.
Wow. Trying to process that. It's a wow.
A tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it is. And it's not for me to say my spirituality, and I guess I'm here because of that spirituality, and I kind of became part of this because of that. So next up, Gino. Dr. King wrote an amazing book, Visit to the Logos of Earth. What or who is our living, breathing Mother Earth? Can you define that?
Yes, definitely. So the book that you're referring to is this one that is available, written by George King. It's available on our international site, and of course you'll probably have links to it. But before we get into that, why don't I explain a little bit about what our goddess, really, that we live on is not. She is not just a big piece of rock and floating around in the solar system, and we just happen to evolve out of her. She's not the fruits of the earth, although that is a part of her. And as Frank mentioned, she is a living, breathing goddess. She's a cosmic entity. She is capable of self-cleansing and self-healing. She has lungs, a heart, not as we know it, a nervous system, and she's fully aware of everything that is going on her surface. I don't want to go into a 15 or 20 minute story here, but we came to this planet. She allowed us, rather, to come to this planet 18 million years ago, and there's a whole history before that, but she had to make environmental conditions on her surface very I guess allowable for us to stay here, to breathe, to experience and evolve through materialism into spirituality. And it's just one of the saddest stories that you've ever heard, believe it or not. But she is very sensitive to the mining that we do. If there's warring countries and bombs are being dropped, if you could imagine. She's extremely more sensitive than we could ever be, as bad as something that could happen to our bodies. And that's really the awareness, I would say, of what, and it's a very poor example, I apologize, but she is much more than what meets the eye, more than the mountains, the forests, the oceans of the world. And we take for granted every day, and it's again, I don't want to say that pollution is not important. It is extremely important, and I think it's the tip of the iceberg of the awareness that humanity, and it's a great thing. We're recycling, we're trying to be good, with a lot of things, and stopping nuclear experimentation is huge. We should really just abolish all anything that would harm her first, before we should put her before we put ourselves, is an important point here. She's a female. We call her the Mother Earth. I think it's almost innate in cultures throughout history to look at her as the preservation energy. Why not the Father Earth? It's because what was needed those 18 million years ago, when humanity, not in this form exactly, came, we needed somewhere to I don't want to say a petri dish, but we needed somewhere to evolve and experience, through a material realm. And she sacrificed herself she had the great energy, a great aura that she had to pull in within herself, hide it so that she's not vibrating us off of her back. And if that makes sense, I hope it's not too much of a shock for viewers, but that's the way the Aetherius Society, first and foremost, once you get more and more involved, what our mission really is to help put things right in that regard. And believe it or not, a byproduct of that will be environmental changes, and things will just not correct themselves, but we will make conditions right on this earth. So
Okay, it's within. I completely understand, because it's just Mother Earth. How we define it, it is Mother Earth. Allison, what has the Great Change, July 8th, 1964? What does that have to do with climate change and Mother Earth? There was a great change in 1964.
Yes, there certainly was. As Gino was saying, and Frank, of course, would believe that as well, that the Earth is a living being. And, we as human beings can receive an initiation, but this goes on up through the gamut of evolution, and a planet can receive an initiation, because life goes on way beyond our concept of what life or consciousness can be. So on July the 8th, 1964, the Mother Earth received an initiation. And this was a transference of energy to the Logos, which is like the living conscious aspect of the planet. Now, these energies have been held in abeyance since that time. But she could, when you receive an initiation, you become a more powerful person. You have a greater aura. You will, you have much more power. So the Earth could have used that energy to, if you like, shake us off her back, because we are really very basic forms of life in compared to a planetary consciousness. But she hasn't done that. But nevertheless, the day will come, and it's a gradual change that is going to take place upon this earth. And the day will come, and this is the prophesied new age, when she will be able to release these energies, and we can become part of that change. And I think what's been happening over the last year has suddenly alarmed people, because there's been terrible climate change. I mean, look at we've had forest fires in Siberia, we've had flooding in Africa where there's been drought. Now, what is very interesting is that on June the 1st, 1960, and this was before the initiation of Earth, a great cosmic intelligence entitled the Master Aetherius, after whom the Aetherius Society was named, gave a transmission entitled The New World. And in this transmission, he described what conditions will be like when we do eventually enter this new era of peace and enlightenment, which has been prophesied by all the seers of old. They've all said, all the great masters, the great avatars, talk about a time on earth when we will have paradise on earth again. But we have to go with the flow. We have to change. Now, there are two major things that the Master Aetherius prophesied, which might seem alarming, but we're starting to notice these things now. One was that the ionosphere would be taken down completely. Now, that might sound quite shocking, because the ionosphere, which is the upper part of the atmosphere, which extends for hundreds of miles up in space, right to the, above the Earth, that is the edge of space, the end of the ionosphere. And it deflects a lot of the cosmic rays that come from the solar wind, which are dangerous to life on Earth, life as we know it. But lower down, you have the ozone layer, and that absorbs the shortwave ultraviolet rays, which are also dangerous to life on Earth as we know it. And bearing in mind that this transmission was given in 1960, it wasn't until 1985 that they started, scientists noticed the first hole in the ozone, in over Antarctica, the depletion of the ozone layer. And it fluctuates. And of course, we aren't helping with all our carbon emissions, because the ozone layer also absorbs fluorine. And a lot of these carbon emissions contain fluorine compounds as well. And that is, it's getting to a critical point. But this year alone, there was a hole over Antarctica that was bigger than the whole continent of Antarctica, and one over the Arctic Ocean, over the North Pole, the size of Greenland. So we really have to take steps to look at what we are doing. It's very important. And another aspect of this transmission, this prediction, was that the seasons shall become as one. But I'm sure we've all noticed over the years that spring, we're getting warmer weather in spring, and even in the winter, and then we get awful summers. And of course, look at the terrible climatic catastrophes we've had over this last year, with the terrible flooding and the forest fires and these heat domes that have settled over different parts of the world. So this is really something that we should look at, and it looks as though it's starting to come true. I mean, we are still protected by the ionosphere, but look at the terrible atomic experimentation that was going on in the 50s and 60s. And the cosmic masters were looking at our Earth, and they have instrumentation, and they can see what's happening. And all these atomic blasts, and it was a great sightseeing event to watch an atomic bomb being detonated in the Nevada desert, but it was ossifying the atmosphere. So this was a stark warning to us that we have to change our ways. But it's not just that, we have to spiritualize ourselves. If we can become more spiritual beings, we will be more open to receiving these higher cosmic ray vibrations. So when the great change does eventually come, which isn't next year or the next 100 years, but we're looking maybe 1,000, 2,000 years hence, we will be part of this change, and we will see the living Mother Earth in all her glory, and that will be a wonderful thing to look forward to. So we must never forget that all it takes to bring about the demise of the human race is a flip of the axis. It's happened before, and that is outside of our control. And we must remember that we are living on the back of a sleeping giant, a beautiful goddess, but nevertheless very, very powerful. And we should thank our God that we are still allowed to live here after all the terrible things that we have done.
Wow. I said it before we went on air. I realized a whole bunch of years ago that we've been living, it's kind of what you said, we've been living in the Garden of Eden all this time. We just never realized it.
Yes,
Mother Earth
absolutely.
and all the gifts that we have. It has been, the Garden of Eden. So switching directions a little bit, Frank. And I'm curious about this because I have my own theories about this, but how are UFOs and extraterrestrials helping Mother Earth?
Well, in a transmission in the 50s, I think it was, called Our Action Here, the great master called Mars Sector 6. Now, Mars Sector 6 played a prominent part in the primary initiation Earth on July the 8th, 1964. He was the great controlling entity who oversaw many other great beings who guaranteed that the Earth received her great initiation. In this transmission, he said it was some time ago, it was seen by the Lords of Karma. Now, this is quite a devastating statement, that the Earth, the Mother Earth, was soon due to die as a planet. Now, the question is, why is that? Well, as a planet, she had to live in her vibrations and her evolution. She required great energies. She needed to operate in certain ways. You might liken it to you sitting in a meditative state and thousands of microbes on your body, and you couldn't move. You couldn't be who you wanted to be. You had to almost be in a quiescent state. And not only that, but the microbes on your body were also taking all they could from you, and you were giving and giving and giving and giving. And so this was the case over these millions of years. So the great being Mars Sector 6 who made this statement said, well, they were petitioned and they came into known orbit of the Earth, which was the operation of satellite number 3, to help the planet as an entity through this process. They did it in many ways by giving her energy on behalf of greater beings to relieve the terrible situation she was in of being deprived. She couldn't operate, because if she did operate, she would vibrate us all off her back. So there was quite a predicament. So on July the 8th, 1964, that was addressed. But even then, even though they'd given her colossal energies, she couldn't use them directly straight away. So they had to be held within her. So all the way through, the Cosmic Masters are helping the Earth through this difficult process, and also helping to prepare mankind by reminding mankind, all of us, of this address, this imbalance we have, that we live on a great being. We have to recognize that. We have to start putting right the great imbalance that we have with the Earth. We have to stop taking so much. We have to start giving back more. And how to do that. They showed us how. So they were helping her through this whole process in cooperation with greater beings. They were emissaries, you might say, in preparation for the great change. So this is what they're doing. Okay. And they're protecting her in certain ways. They've protected mankind directly from different dangers from space spores, many other things, which all these things would maybe have affected the Earth. They would have affected what's on the Earth. And the Earth, of course, has volunteered to be a classroom, the only classroom we have to learn of our divinity, the classroom of experience. So, and she wants us to find our divinity. That's why she did it. So, but she has to also take her rightful place in the great scheme of things. So it's a great balancing happening here, and it's all in this great plan, which is eventually for the new planet, the new world, as we call it, which will slowly take place. So the great beings are helping, the Cosmic Masters and extraterrestrials, UFOs are helping all the way along. They're helping greater beings, they're emissaries, you might say, in this great process of change. Very exciting times indeed.
No, I listen to all this. My mind is trying to absorb all this, and I pick up the newspaper yesterday and I watched the news, and 100,000 gallons of oil leaked onto the shores of California, and it could have been stopped, but negligence, and it wasn't stopped, and it's just this. It's like every day another insult to Mother Earth, as I view it. Anyway, moving on. Gino, what is, and I read something about this, what is the Devic Kingdom, and what does that have to do with climate change?
Yes, well, it's pronounced Devic Kingdom, and might be your accent, Calvin. No worries.
It's a Jersey accent. For sure.
Okay. Well, this is going to take, I'm going to try and choose my words carefully here, but they exist. They are beings that exist on a realm which we call the Devic Kingdom, and they're not humans, but they're also not animals. They operate according to strict law, the law of karma, actually, and their sole, I guess, purpose for being is to take the positive and negative energy and thoughts that humanity is spewing out, if you will, our thoughts and actions, and transforming that into weather conditions. It could be, earthquakes. There's a Devic Lord, if you will, in charge of all the different things that are related to the elements on this planet, and on the other realms as well. As in our childhood fairy tale stories, we've heard of elves and gnomes and then that sort of thing. Well, there's a lot of truth behind that, because we've seen pictures of people psychically seeing these beings, and they're very colorful, huge auras, and just performing these magical things. I mean, we could, Dr. George King has tried to explain it, that a match, when struck, could not possibly light into a flame from that spark without a Devic being involved with that. So it's basically bringing the oxygen together, the fuel, the sulfur, what have you, and producing an expression of energy there. Where if you can wrap and sort of lay that's sort of a lay of the land, on a larger scale, how do they participate in environmental conditions, and how can they help us? Well, it's how we can help ourselves. The more positive thoughts, actions that we put out into the mind belt, they will directly use that for sunny days. Of course, we can't have a sunny day every day, but there'd be more gentle rainfalls. There would be cloudy days. The winds won't be blowing buildings over, that sort of thing. It'll just this evolution of humanity, as we evolve spiritually, will put conditions right with the help of the Devic Kingdom, and they can't. It's not in their nature to change or alter that. They have to work with what's given to them. I've in the past sort of related it, or an analogy would be, in a grocery store, the shipment comes at night, and you got the night crew coming in to put all the ketchup and whatnot back on the shelves, and that's what their job is. And if they weren't given ketchup or what have you, there wouldn't be that available to stock the shelves. So they are the workers of our environment, and it's greatly encouraged to and the Aetherius Society is extremely active in this, but to participate and cooperate with that known knowledge that feeding them positive spiritual energy will make conditions right on this earth. So that's
okay. Fascinating stuff to kind of absorb. It really is fascinating and mind expansive to the different perspectives of us here. So let's move on to the next and last segment, talking about some of the missions of the Aetherius Society that are directly related to helping Mother Earth and mankind. So, Allison, what is Operation Sunbeam? Well, I love the name of that.
It's a fantastic name. Dr. King, he became aware of the suffering of the Mother Earth during a heightened state of cosmic consciousness. He became aware that she was a living conscious being, and that we had treated her abysmally. The human race has shown such little regard. Look at all the wars and the bombings and changing the river courses, drilling for oil. As you mentioned earlier on, this latest spillage, off the Californian coast is absolutely terrible. And they're just saying, oh, well, it happens, Well, it isn't really good enough. So Dr. King came up with a way to give something back to the Mother Earth. And this was in the form of high caliber energy. I mean, there are no physical things we can give the Earth. All that she can receive from us is energy, because the debt that we owe her is so enormous. There isn't really any way that we could even do it. But Dr. King, being who he was and the contacts that he had, came up with a way, this mission that he called Operation Sunbeam, and he called this an ecological tool, which would gradually but surely start to repay the heavy negative karmic debt that mankind owes to the Mother Earth. So what it involves is the invocation of a very high caliber spiritual energy, which then goes through certain apparatus and is discharged into a psychic center of Earth. Now, a planet has psychic centers. Not just us, but a planetary being has psychic centers as well. And this would happen throughout the universe. This is an aspect of evolution. And we are very fortunate through his cosmic contacts that there were some very elevated beings from another solar system who were willing to come here to help, because they were advanced enough to be able to invoke the energy necessary for the Mother Earth to accept this energy into a psychic center of her body. So this is basically what the mission is about. But he involves us because he built the equipment, we operate it. He has initiates called the task force, and these people are trained very specifically to operate this equipment at certain given times, and the energy comes from these masters and they get it from other sources, and it's then discharged into a psychic center of Earth. And we have heard in recent years that without Operation Sunbeam, our world would be a very different place. We can't prevent all catastrophes, but when they do occur, they're spread out over a longer period of time. The tectonic plates are moving more slowly, and certain tremendous cataclysmic events have not taken place as predicted, such as Yellowstone Park, that supervolcano, that's long overdue. There was due to be a massive earthquake near the San Andreas fault line, where you've got one tectonic plate pushing underneath another, and that would cause massive tidal waves. And in certain instances, these earthquakes have taken place in areas which are uninhabited. It doesn't mean that there will be no catastrophes, but they've been slowed down. And this is because we are giving something back to the Mother Earth. And it's one of the most important missions being performed by the Aetherius Society today. And it's the fact that it's touched by human hands that makes it a very important karmic manipulation. You see, the whole of humanity should revere the Mother Earth. And if we did that, we'd have perfect conditions upon this earth, because the Devic Kingdom, as Gino was saying just now, they would have all this positive energy to manipulate, and it would result in perfect weather conditions, what we need, not the hurricanes and the typhoons and everything else. But Operation Sunbeam is one very important thing that the Aetherius Society is doing for Mother Earth. And he left this to the Aetherius Society as part of his great legacy, which we can continue into the future.
Interesting. You said psychic places on Earth. And again,
In
I don't.
fact, sorry, Calvin, just want to say, we did actually perform a phase of this mission only last night.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. So
So I was saying listening to you about psychic places. I've been to Sedona, Arizona,
Yes,
12 times.
right.
Of course, it is a place of psychic energy. It's also a
Yes,
place
yes.
where there may have been contact with UFOs there actively. And again, I'm learning about Aetherius from you all.
Yes.
I've been to that place 12 times, and it's been a bit transformative in my life. But
Well,
anyway,
Arizona is a very special place.
yeah, very special place.
Yes,
I've climbed mountains
without a doubt.
barefoot in order to absorb energies through the soles of my feet.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And actually, in my first novel, there's a back cover of me sitting on a mountaintop that I climbed barefoot. These red mountains. So
Yes.
you know, I subscribe, and moving on. Moving on, Frank, what is Operation Earthlight, and who are the Ascended Masters? Interesting stuff.
It is very interesting indeed. Now, well, in the early 60s, the Master Aetherius, which is George King's master, and the Aetherius Society bears the Master Aetherius's name, that's a pseudonym, gave an instruction that he should build shape power temples, a type of temples which never seen on Earth before, to draw together natural energies from the Earth, a bit like the pyramids of Giza, and to have radionic equipment in there, specific equipment which could draw together and radiate this energy out to mankind, prayer circles in these temples, but also the third aspect, to take specific energies from the Mother Earth after her primary initiation and radiate these out to the Devic Kingdom and therefore out to mankind. And the first parts of that request were partly brought about by the invention of what we call spiritual energy radiators, which the Aetherius Society runs in 5 locations throughout the world. Very unique equipment which anchor energy on the earth. And the invention of Operation Prayer Power, you see the picture behind me, was another aspect of this, to give people a way of potentizing prayer energy through mantra and prayer, and storing it for the first time since the times of Atlantis, and radiating this energy, this spiritual power, into tremendous concentration out to the world. And it's an amazing science. So, but the third aspect he hadn't done, and he was in deep thought about it, and he had a great flash of illumination in 1973, and he got a draftsman to draw this equipment, and there was a plan of a specialized antenna system which was capable of tapping into specific energies from the earth, very unique energies, and radiating these out to the Devic Kingdom of mankind. And nothing ever happened because of other things which were going on. Dr. King's life was totally dedicated 24 hours a day to spiritual ecology and to helping the human race. And his hands were full, let's put it simply. His hands were very full. He worked so hard. And came around to 1990s or thereabout, and he made a request and re-looked at it, and he asked his master whether he could give this mission to the spiritual hierarchy of the earth. And it all happened. And in a very short period of time, they got involved, and the Master Babaji, who is the great head of the spiritual hierarchy of Earth, the greatest master on Earth today, officially accepted Operation Earthlight. His plans, they built the equipment on his plans, and 7 units, 7 different aspects of this, 7 different parts of the same equipment were put into operation at different times of the year now, and they radiate energies from the goddess of Earth, specific energies, for the very important reason of taking some of the energies from her inner heart out to the Devic Kingdom and to mankind, and to prepare mankind, you might say, for the great change to come. And who are the spiritual hierarchy? Well, they are the Ascended Masters. They are beings that mainly have lived on Earth over the 3 different epochs we've had. Let's just take the last 5,000 years. So they're beings that have practiced yoga for many, many lives, who have gained enlightenment and have gone beyond that and gone into what in the 9 freedoms calls cosmic consciousness, this deepest aspect called samadhi or nirvana, and have gone beyond that. They've learned everything that this world, this classroom can teach. And they've learned how to spiritualize mass, which is one of the reasons we're here. It's our duty to spiritualize mass by the downpouring of the divine love energy, which is a free-flowing energy we all have access to. LOVE, this great energy. And as we evolve, we start to do this. That's our duty. So they have done this, and they then have gone through a specific initiation. They've earned the right to leave the incarnatory cycle of Earth, gone to higher planets. And they've stayed because of specific abilities they have, which they know are absolutely vital to mankind. And a specific initiation has been given to them, and they've gone through what we call the initiation of ascension, which is the spiritualization of their body. And Jesus demonstrated that when he was on earth. He came down from the cross, and his body was put in a cave. And then with the help of a few others, or he did it himself mainly, he resurrected his physical body into a body which was physical, but was ageless, a body which was totally in tune with his consciousness and could be used in whatever way he wanted. So these beings live in ageless bodies in different retreats around the earth. Mount Shasta is one in America, Castle Peak, the Grand Tetons, the Himalayas, the Andes, Luxor. And they moved into England, into Beg Macdui near in the northern Scottish area, and other parts of the world as well. And they hold the light. So these beings are very, very active. If they weren't here, we wouldn't be here as a race. They hold the karmic light, the balance for mankind. They are the holders of the light. But in these days, they're becoming more and more active. And their acceptance of Operation Earthlight is one of these, the examples of them becoming far more active, and they have become more active. And a lot of their activity at Change of Thought was actually instigated by the founder of the Aetherius Society, Dr. George King. He had a tremendous inspirational impact upon these great masters, which says a lot about him as a master himself. So Operation Earthlight then is this taking of energy at specific times of the year through specific equipment, which is linked into the very heart of the earth, radiating this energy, specific energies out to the Devic Kingdom and to mankind, mainly in preparation for this great change. So we've been given tremendous help, and Operation Earthlight's one of them. Sunbeam's another one. Prayer Power's another one. The satellite number 3 is another one. Many, many things. We are very, very fortunate in that the great beings care about us so much that they go out of their way to help us in so many ways. They want us to stand on our own 2 feet too. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Obviously, there's a number of other missions to the Aetherius Society, which we won't go into now, but you can all, in all the promo work that I'm going to do, the contact for Aetherius, AETHERIUS.org will be in all my communiques, so people can look that up and explore and learn and understand as I've done on my own to kind of learn and prepare. Next, there's kind of a call to action, and we certainly need that. And that's why this Climate Optimist group forms call to action. It's a call to teach and to educate and to learn as much as we can in all, I've said this before, in all the different perspectives. We all share that one dream and that one goal, Mother Earth taking care. So kind of wrapping down, I've read somewhere about Gino, the practice of violet flame. Where does that come from?
Yes, well, that's an exciting question, because that's part of our practical, practice that we do in most of our events, and that part of the Aetherius Society. The violet flame, as I was explaining about, the Mother Earth being alive and having a heart. Well, we call her heart actually a logos, and it's almost the soul and spirit of her. And this violet flame, she's emitting this 24 hours a day. By the way, it's not just sort of it's part of her aura, if you will, an essence that comes from this logos. And the more you visualize it, as we've heard in many esoteric fields, the more you visualize and think about something, the more you're attracting it. And the more you practice this violet flame, it becomes more and more pronounced. You may not see it in the beginning. We have a definite way to how to induce this. It's been a secret, actually, in I'll call it the third wave of civilization. We've, of course, I don't know if everybody's aware that we've built up civilizations twice before, once being Lemuria, and then after that Atlantis. And after the fall of Atlantis, which we destroyed, unfortunately, a lot of things were kept secret, and the practice of the violet flame was one of them. It was basically given, the secret just was only allowed to be, I guess, practiced by the Great White Brotherhood that Frank was explaining, the hierarchy of ascended masters on this earth. And it's they kept it very close to the chest up until one of George King's contacts, the master Aetherius, who the Aetherius Society is named after, actually, gave it to the public again back in, I believe it was, apologize, 1956, for the first time since those days. So it's been hidden for good reason. We just simply didn't deserve it karmically, and but we are now in the Enlightenment age to have this given to us. And so he was the first one to bring it back into the public eye for everybody. Everyone can do it, every man, woman, and child, and we should actually do it. So what is the violet flame? It is a cleansing and healing practice that we do. It flows through matter. There's no limitations. You could have it as wide as you want, or as high through your whole aura. It cleanses and purifies you as you're performing this. And if you're suffering from illness, for example, this is a great way to help you clean that out, because we believe, yes, there are cures that we take in for the physical body, but why not also that reflects into our aura, but why not cleanse the aura, and it will reflect then into the physical body. So there's that thought as well. We practice the violet flame we could, in our healing practices, as you get to know the Aetherius Society, we do have these grand missions that we do, but we also offer spiritual healing, for example, at most of our locations. And the violet flame is a huge part of that, because as you're trying to take a sickness or a condition off of a patient, it's real. You're taking it, and you don't want it to just throw it off into the corner. You want to transmute that. So what you would do then, as the healer, is to take a moment and transmute that. It could be a cancer patient, that you're trying to heal a condition off of, and you want to transmute that with the violet flame. And everything is alive, everything is full of energy, everything is made of energy. And it's our job to spiritualize matter, basically, and this is one of the ways to do that. So it's a powerful practice. I'm passionate about it, as you know, Frank and Allison and Wajid are, because it's, you know, before I put it this way, before I go into any meetings, I'll do the violet flame. Before, you know, I'm off onto a long drive, I'll just, you know, please protect the car type of thing, and it's a very protective energy as well. So I hope that sort of gives it. We of course have material on this. But you know, endless material on it. There's you'll learn more as you go through our material.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so receptive because of my own spirituality, listening to you all. Still, a lot of what you're saying is foreign, but it's not for me because I'm spiritual and I do my own thing. But I'm so intrigued by all this. So also the other, and we're going to have Allison in 2 seconds talk about the 12 blessings and how we can use that for climate change. But 12 blessings, 12 blessings, 12blessings.org. And I'll have all that information for you all. So Allison, what are the 12 blessings and how do we use them to help with climate change?
Right. Well, the 12 blessings is a series of blessings which we use as a practice. They're almost like prayers. And they were delivered by one of the great cosmic communicators, the Master Jesus, who, by the way, came from the planet Venus. And that is actually in the Bible. It's he says, I am from the root and branch of David and the bright and morning star. But I don't think people realize the significance of that. And of course, now in this day and age, when we understand, you know, what a solar system is, he came right out with it. I'm from the planet Venus, as the Master Aetherius is as well. But he delivered the 12 blessings. And the idea of that is to focus our consciousness on higher concepts. So we gain a deeper understanding of greater life throughout the conscious universe. And it's step by step. The Master Jesus has chosen focal points very carefully. But when he gets to the 7th blessing, he asks us to bless the Mother Earth. And this is it's a very beautiful concept. He tells us to bless this great, wondrous being who has suffered so much and who has given us life and sustenance so that we can gain essential experience through evolution. And that is the purpose of life, the journey back to God. However we do it, there isn't one path, but this is a very good path. I certainly recommend it. But all religions in their day were a path back to God, because the journey is back to the source from whence we came. And now we have a greater concept. And the Master Jesus really is continuing this, this teaching, which would not have been understood 2,000 years ago. You know, I mean, to bless the galaxy. The galaxy is a conscious being as well. Now, the thing is, the greatest crisis in our world, bar none, according to Dr. King, is the spiritual energy crisis. All our troubles stem from our ignorance of the spiritual laws, our lack of understanding of the consequences of our thoughts and actions. And the cosmic masters, you know, they don't always make their presence known, but they're certainly, some of their craft are being seen more readily in the skies nowadays. But they have such fine scientific equipment. They can see all the energy interplay of the subtle realms. And they can see this mass of negative energy from people who really, you know, have no idea what they're doing. You send someone hate, and this thought is a thing. It has substance, and it's there in the mind belt. So their plan to counteract this negative energy is to send out positive energy into the mind belt. And Dr. King called this band of spiritual workers the thin white line. But what he did was to try and coordinate them, as did the cosmic masters. So by focusing your mind on these higher concepts, you're concentrating on that and that alone, and it's raising your vibration. And when it's a form of prayer. And when you pray in this way, what we call dynamic prayer, it goes beyond religion and creed. It becomes a cosmic force. And this is an energy that can be manipulated, and then people can draw upon it. You see, it's really understanding the mind and drawing energy from the mind belt. If you're used to thinking a certain thought, you keep on thinking it. But if you put a different type of energy into the mind belt, light, love, spiritual power, people will become aware of it and they'll be drawn to it. And so then they'll create this new channel and they'll start to rise up towards the light. So we've learned, how does this affect climate change and the Mother Earth? Well, we've learned how the Devic Kingdom manipulates the energy generated by the human race. Hence we get hurricanes, terrible storms, awful weather systems. This is what's happening. I mean, you only have to look at the actions of humanity to see why there would be a consequence to that. But if we learn to manipulate energy in the right way, we will be helping the Mother Earth, because we will become more spiritualized and we will release her from the bondage. She'll be able to gradually release her energy, which she's held in abeyance for all these years since the Great Initiation. And we would be more advanced. We will be able to go with the great change. And the Devic Kingdom would rejoice in using this energy and would bring about perfect conditions on Earth. We, in turn, would become more psychic and spiritual people and would become part of the great change, which will happen. I am absolutely certain of that. So we hold these services of the 12 blessings, and as you mentioned just now, 12blessings.org, and we hold online services and people can join in all over the world at the same time. And it's a marvelous practice, and it's coordinated, and it sends a wedge of light into the darkness. And we're cooperating with the cosmic plan. If we're helping the Mother Earth, we're helping the cosmic plan. That has to be. And this type of dynamic prayer will also open up our higher chakras. So this will help to raise our consciousness. It's a build upon build effect. And this is what our world needs so badly. And, I love the 12 blessings. When I first opened that book, I saw specks of golden light around it. It was a beautiful experience, and I used to carry a copy of it with me everywhere. It's a beautiful practice, and I absolutely recommend it. Because while you're thinking about praying for the sun or the Mother Earth, you're not thinking about what I'm having for dinner. It focuses the mind in a direct way. And as the yogis have always said, the first step is concentration. If you can't hold a thought for more than a few seconds, you're not going to get anywhere. So we have to start with the first step. But this is an inspired way to advance ourselves and help the world.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you. And wrapping up, Wajid, your take on what does the future hold for Mother Earth and mankind? My last question.
Oh, Calvin, Dr. King and the cosmic masters, as we refer them, have said that the greatest ignorance on this planet, that the greatest sin on this planet is ignorance. So the greatest gift that somebody can give another person is wisdom. And, these are concepts which, again, the general public or the mainstream media doesn't really openly talk about. These are concepts that my panel of experts have kind of briefly struck upon, because there's so much information, and it's up to the listeners themselves to keep an open mind and do their own research. After listening to something which is, the spiritual pioneers of old were never understood, and Dr. King was an individual that probably won't be understood for the next 500 years. Eventually, science catches up, or evolution catches up, and then they're portrayed as heroes of the planet. The message to the younger generation, because this is what it's pointing out to, is that, you've never been left alone. We on Earth have never been left alone since we've been here for the last 18 million years. There are people, higher beings, that watch us, that care about us, that actually love us more than we love ourselves, which is, again, a strange concept, because we are known as a kind of barbaric, warlike race. But they've evolved to the point where, not only scientifically, but also spiritually, that they see us as part of them, that we're all just part of the one whole. And they just want us to, we've regressed so much in our, in our so-called evil, more like involution, to the point where, we are given help. The planet herself is being helped. And because the planet herself is being helped by these missions of the cosmic masters and the Aetherius Society, it directly affects every man, woman, child, animal, plant on this planet. And so, again, for those who are in fear, who have anxiety, who are depressed about this terrible climate changes that are occurring, the raising of temperature, it's, again, a call of action, to a gentle call of action, not a forceful call of action, a gentle one, to raise our consciousness, to raise our vibrations, and become the beings that we were supposed to be in the first place. We didn't come here to suffer. We came here to raise our consciousness and rise. And so these opportunities are now being given, not only now, but into the future. And we will not be left alone. And it's up to us now to do what we can as members of the human race, to leave some kind of spiritual legacy for the younger generation. I think it's what we have to do as spiritual adults. It's our duty. It's not even a calling. It's our duty that we leave this planet, when we die, a better place than than what we found it, for the sake of the younger generation. And so, again, it's been prophesied. The future is already here. There is going to be a new age that's dawning. There will be a new world where there will be no atomic bombs or wars, or political system, or monetary system, or even races, or just open land and sea, and a glorious future. And again, it's up to us what we have to do in our own way. We'll be given all the help we can to be part of this glorious new age.
Wow. So my head is kind of full up here with ideas and notions, and I've done my exploring, and I'll continue to explore. But I want to thank you all, Frank and Allison and Gino and Wajid, for sharing this, and your time and your passion and your energy. And I just want to unmute Gaetano and unmute Carla. If you guys have any comments, questions, but before that, Carla, because the last time we had gotten together, you were still teaching. So if you could just do a little bit of a bio, your bullet bios and the things that, because you're an educator and you've come up with such innovative mental health programs for high school students, which is part of our mission to teach. So if you could just kind of, yes, do some bullet points and topics of what you want to do.
Sure. So pretty much, I do work in the school system, Atlantic City High School in New Jersey. And I am around the youth a lot. And it's a great duty to be able to serve them. So as Calvin was saying, I was involved in mental health programs that will keep the kids focused on, not the pandemic, but also just rising them above the anxieties of the day as we know it, and they are young, as you guys, are very much aware of taking care of them as best as we can. So with that, I did get a call from the governor of New Jersey, just, applauding me on, making this a priority. Yeah, priority, which was pretty cool. So I am really focused on this new association with the Climate Optimists to bring them into that fold. Now that we've, focused on mental health, now it's time for them to be mindful about how their earth is going to look, as it's just been ravished. And just to see that in New Jersey itself, we just had, believe it or not, it's like Hurricane Ida just came from nowhere. And we were slammed. When I say slammed, nobody could believe the impact of, a hurricane. And it made you focus on, this gotta be more than just a hurricane. It has to be the climate that has been interrupted in some way to cause such devastation. So, just to point, you guys have an interesting topic, and I think it really comes full force with, believe it or not, mental health and protecting our earth. And just listening to you from the angle of Mother Earth, it gives me a chill to act, a chill to go out and tell these young people that, yes, you're not too young to sit still and pay attention to what's going on here. So great job with your presentation.
Thank you.
Gaetano, any comments from you on this absorption?
So thank you, Calvin. Thank you, panelists. Wow, I was taking notes. I was taking crazy notes here. Seasons will come to all is one. July 8th, 1964, Mars 66 transmission, Satellite 3, Devic Kingdom, Operation Sunbeam, Sedona, Arizona, 5 locations. I mean, Devic Kingdom, Violet Flame, Logos, 12 blessings. I mean, I was just taking notes like crazy. So I'm a simple guy from Jersey. Going back to Calvin's call to action, I'd like to ask each one of the panelists, can please give one simple thing that each of us can do after we sign off to contribute to Mother Earth and the blessing, so on. Something simple that we could be done, whether it's a prayer, a chant, or something. Because all this is a lot of information. Like I said, I'm a simple guy from Jersey, so something simple from each of the panelists.
All right, well, I'll start. Yes, definitely. My advice, one piece of advice would be to absolutely read as much as you can, not just the society material, but on all sorts of things. But don't leave it at that. We are very practical, proactive, which is what attracted me. I didn't want to just sit on a bunch of books and hope enlightenment would come one day. But there's a definite get up and go and put some effort into things. The Violet Flame is a great start. Just start with a small practice that you can do, and you'll see results, and you'll feel it too, and let it stem from there. So that would be mine, is take that step. Yeah.
Well, I would say that we should send our love and blessings to Mother Earth. I think that would be a lovely thing to do. Visualize white light flowing through you and out through the palms of the hands, and send this energy, this love energy, to the Mother Earth. If you say, "Blessed is the Mother Earth," you'll get a wonderful tingling feeling, and there'll be a response. And the Devic Kingdom will manipulate this energy. It doesn't matter how great or how small. Every person who does this is playing a part. Every human being on Earth who does that is important. And it's a great practice. And I recommend that you study the 12 blessings. I really do, because it's practical. Dr. King was very practical. He was not an armchair metaphysician. And these are the days of service to the greater cause.
I entirely agree with that. I think one way you could potentize that even more is get your friends, young people, go out into nature and to the bush and by the sea, we're alone, and feel the power of nature all around you. And then once you've felt that presence of nature, then send your blessing out to the Mother Earth like that. And then just with that thought that you're on the body of a vast intelligence, and then just feel what happens. And I think by doing that, you'll come to a certain understanding. Something will happen if you do it properly. And this could have amazing effect upon you as young minds and hearts to change direction and see, and it will give you great hope too, that indeed you are on the body of a vast intelligence, and there is a great plan afoot, and it's going to unfold. We have to awaken to it, really. We just have to awaken to this great plan.
Yeah, the thing that came to me, Gitano, is that, you know, it's been said that we've been here for 18 million years, and they say that the subconscious mind never forgets anything. So to the younger generation, I say, open up your mind. I've always maintained that our intuition, or the little voice within, you know, is the greatest light detector ever, you know, that was created. And so keep an open mind, open yourself to inspiration, and then discriminate between what you believe is truth and what is lies. And that's part of the Great Awakening. It's breaking open now this molding or hypnotizing or Maya that we've been enveloped in, and it's allowing the younger generation to open their minds and start thinking for themselves. So stay open, stay inspired.
Thank you.
I was taking notes. I wanted to quickly add that everything I do began with Carla's daughter, Claudine. And this whole channel, everything I've done began with Claudine. Long story. And Carla continues to inspire me, because she's right in the middle of educating our youth in South Jersey. And I've taken it upon myself to do a lot of my interviews with young Gen Z people, taking, you know, having observed and getting to know Carla, because I think that's such an important place. It's an important place to, I mean, that's where you really gotta put so much energy with young people, with what you're doing, Carla. And somebody just said to feel the power of nature. I think it was you, Frank. I can't tell you how many times I've run to the Jersey Shore when there's not a full-blown hurricane, but even a mild tropical storm where the winds are 60 or 70 miles an hour. And I've gone as close to the beach as I can get. And it's strictly to feel power of Mother Nature. I do that all the time. I used to take my son with me when a storm was coming. I would take my son, we'd go watch and feel. And of course, my wife would yell, if anything happens to him, don't come home, you know? And then somebody also said, read. And Gaetano has been doing something that's great. He's been sending me all these links, a tremendous amount of links to articles relative to climate change, and I've been taking those links now, headlines and links, and reading them, and now compiling them and sending it out to members of the group, which I'll do to all of you. I do it. And it is reading, it's learning, and seeing everything that's going on, so you have an understanding. Anybody else have anything to add, and or we'll kind of do a wrap, as they say?
I'd like to ask a
Yes.
question. Like, I know we talk about individually what we can do, but collectively, what immediately can we do to change the trajectory of things collectively?
Powerful question.
I think Allison probably would continue with her 12 blessings, if you wish.
Well, most definitely. I mean, this is one thing that people can do in groups. We can all join in the 12 blessings together, and then you generate a power which sort of becomes more potent when we're all together in one place. That's really marvelous. I mean, with the online 12 blessings service, we're trying to get people all over the world to cooperate together. But if you're all together in one place, go, as Frank was saying, go out to nature, some beautiful place, and there'll be like an outpouring of light, and it'll be a wonderful experience, and the Devic Kingdom will rejoice in this, and the Mother Earth will respond. And the more we do this, this is something that the younger generation can be taught to do. It's definitely the way forward.
Also, Carla, you know, it's been said that the cosmic beings or the higher beings have a complete, tally of every single live stream on this planet. They're totally in tune or spiritually online with every single live stream. So on a collective basis, all we have to do is just telepathically reach up, and they will send this energy down to any individual on individual or a collective scale. They will send that. It's science beyond belief, but it's an aspect of truth which I find extremely hopeful.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you.
Well,
And,
We
I was
all
just-
have a great peace weapon in our hearts. Everyone can learn how to pray. There's a vast sea of energy all around us, and people come together and protest. But then, of course, they display their anger and distrusts. But we need the opposite to happen. We need people to come together en masse and to use energy correctly. Dr. King said, if enough people prayed in the right way, the world would be a different place tomorrow in the right way.
Absolutely.
And if I can just say one thing, that by coming together supersedes any sort of belief or religion that people may have, that because we don't believe in limiting beliefs. Everything is, if we come together for the right cause, there's a karmic aspect to it that doesn't just double when there's 2 people or triple when there's 3 people. It's actually much more magnified than that. So there's a little bit of a numbers game involved, and if we could only realize that, it would be absolutely fantastic.
And Calvin, this is Gaetano. If I may, I just shared with the group, and I would share with the wider community. If you want to get together globally, virtually, with people who are healers and so on, there's a expo in New York that I've been going to since 1995 called the New Life Expo. Maybe some of you are familiar with it, but a lot of healers there and energy focused people. So you can click on that link and take a look at that and see if there's anything there that you gravitate towards.
okay, I'm just
So I'd like to share that with everyone here and in the wider community. That's a great expo.
just bear with me 1 second. I'm copying down the chat. Okay, perfect. Well, this has been a wow of learning and absorption. And I want to thank you all so very much for your time and your passion and your energy. And, you know, we are all, like I have the title of my conversation with Calvin, we the species, we're all one species on Mother Earth. And that's how I came up with the title. No matter how, who, what, where, when, we're one species on Mother Earth. And so learning what we've done now, learning about a whole new viewpoint and your passion has been very special. And I cannot thank you enough. I'd love to, I'm thanking you all on behalf of Climate Optimists. And also I'll say to be continued. You know, we've got a lot of work to do. So thank you all. I'm going to stop recording. Again, thank you so much